Hello and welcome to another edition of Library in Our Houses. I'm Mrs. E. I'm in my house and Dooley's here too. Oh, there. And we are going to read King Midas and the Golden Touch today, which is a really awesome Greek myth. So it's ancient, so it's a myth, so it's like 2,000, 3,000 years old. Nobody knows for sure. The same way nobody knows for sure when fairy tales were written. So mythology and fairy tales are very similar because we can kind of copy them because people have been copying them forever. So there's lots and lots of different versions of different fairy tales and myths. So the one that we're reading today, King Midas and the Golden Touch, is by Charlotte Craft. So that's her version of the story. And then her husband actually is an illustrator, a beautiful artist named K.Y. Craft. So I love the illustrations in here. This is one of my favorite books in the library because the paintings are so gorgeous. So this library book has a call number. That's what we call the sticker. This call number has the Dewey Decimal number 398.2. So if you see numbers, you know it's a Dewey number. And this Dewey number means fairy tales, folklore, and mythology. Okay, so any copy of a myth, any copy of a fairy tale is going to go in 398.2, according to Dewey. Okay. All right. So I can look at the copyright information when I open my book and I can figure out how old this book is. This book was published in 1999, so it's 21 years old. This book can have a beer. There once lived a very rich king called Midas, who believed that nothing was more precious than gold. He loved its soft yellow hue and comforting weight in the palm of his hand. The chink of gold coins dropped into a leather purse sounded sweeter to him than the songs of his finest musicians. So he'd rather listen to coins falling into his bag, his money bag, than listen to music. So this dude is obsessed with money. There was only one thing that Midas loved more, and that was his daughter Aurelia. Aurelia, he often told her as she played by the throne, someday I shall bequeath to you the greatest treasury of gold in all the world. So that means someday I'm going to give you the biggest bunch of gold anybody's ever seen. There had been a time, however, when King Midas loved roses as much as he now loved gold. He had once called together the best gardeners in his realm, and the garden they created for him became renowned for the beauty and variety of its roses. But in time, the delicate fragrances and exquisite colors meant nothing to Midas. Only Aurelia still loved the garden. Every day she would pick a bouquet of the most perfect roses to adorn the king's breakfast table. But when Midas saw the flowers, he would think, their beauty lasts but a day. If they were gold, it would last forever. So he can't even enjoy flowers anymore. He's so obsessed with money. He thinks flowers would be better if they were made of gold. This dude has issues. One day, the king's guards found an old man asleep under the rose bushes and brought him before King Midas. So here's the picture of the old man that they found. Unbind him, Midas ordered. Without my gold, I would be as poor as he. Tonight, he shall dine with us. So King Midas was actually very nice to this old man and invited him inside to eat with them. So that night, the old man sat at the king's table, where he was well fed and entertained by the king himself. And after a good night's sleep, the old man went on his way. Here's a picture of his feast before I turn it. That morning, as he often did, Midas went down into his dungeon. With a large brass key, he unlocked the door to the secret chamber where he kept his gold. After carefully locking the door behind him, he sat down to admire his precious wealth. "Oh, I do love it so," he sighed, gazing at his riches. "No matter how hard I work, no matter how long I live, I will never have enough." He was lost in these thoughts when the chamber suddenly filled with light. King Midas looked up and was amazed to behold the glowing figure of a young man. Since there was no way into the room but through the locked door, Midas knew that he was in the presence of magic. So there was like an angel that appeared. Do you not recognize me, friend? Who do you guys think the angel is? He was in the story already. Midas shook his head. The mysterious stranger smiled at him, and it seemed that all the gold in the dungeon glittered even brighter. I am the old man from the rose garden. Instead of punishing me for trespassing, you entertained me at your table. I had thought to reward you for your kindness, but with so much gold, you must surely want for nothing. That's not true, cried Midas. A man can never have enough gold. The stranger's smile broadened. Well, then, what would make you a happier man? Midas thought for only a moment. Perhaps if everything I touched would turn to gold, he said. That is your wish? Yes, for then it would always be at my fingertips, Midas assured him. Think carefully, my friend, cautioned the visitor. Yes, replied Midas, the golden touch will bring me all the happiness I need. And so it shall be yours. Here's a up close and personal look at this angel, or ghost, or whatever it is. With that, the mysterious figure became brighter and brighter until the light became so intense that Midas had to close his eyes. When he opened them, he was alone once again. Had the enchantment worked? Midas eagerly rubbed the great brass door key, but was greatly disappointed. There was no gold in his hands. Bewildered, he looked around the dim room and wondered if perhaps he had been dreaming. So as soon as the angel left, he tried to turn his brass key into gold, but it didn't work. So he doesn't think that the wish was granted. But when King Midas awoke the next day, he found his bedchamber bathed in golden light. Glistening in the morning sun, the plain linen bed covers had just been transformed into finely spun gold. So he woke up in the morning and he had golden sheets. Jumping out of bed, he gasped with astonishment. The bedpost turned to gold as soon as he touched it. It's true, he cried. I have the golden touch. Midas pulled on his clothes. He was thrilled to find himself wearing a handsome suit of gold. Never mind that it was a bit heavy. So remember, everything he touches becomes gold. It's not gold colored. It's actually gold. He slid his spectacles onto his nose. To his delight, they too turned gold. Never mind that he couldn't see through them. So even his glasses, the part that you see out of, turned gold. Are glasses useful when you can't see out of them? No, but Midas is happy because they're gold now. With a gift as great as this, he thought no inconvenience could be too great. Without wasting another moment, Midas rushed out of the room, through the palace, and into the garden. So here's a picture of him waking up with his golden sheets. Ooh, this is my favorite picture in the whole book. So in this corner, he's coming down the stairs. So here he is right here. Everything from right before, everything he touched turned to gold. So all the stairs going down until the step he's on right now have already turned into gold. Gorgeous. Gorgeous illustrations. The roses glistened with the morning dew, and their scent gently perfumed the air. Midas went from bush to bush, touching each of the blossoms. So remember how in the beginning he told his daughter Aurelia that, or he thought that gold flowers would be better than regular flowers? So there he is going and touching all of the flowers. How happy Aurelia will be when she sees these roses of gold, he exclaimed. He never noticed how the perfect golden blossoms drooped and pulled down the bushes with their weight. So when he turned them to gold, he actually kind of ruined the flowers because the bush can't hold up gold flowers. It's too heavy. Soon it was time for breakfast. Midas sat down just as Aurelia entered the room, clutching a golden rose. But her face was wet with tears. Father, a horrible thing has happened, she said, sobbing. I went to the garden to pick you a flower, but all of the roses have become hard and yellow. They're golden roses now, my love, and it will never fade. But I miss their scent. Father, Aurelia cried. I'm sorry, my dear. I only thought to please you. Now we can buy all the roses you could ever wish for. Midas smiled at his daughter to comfort her. Please wipe your eyes, and we'll have our breakfast together. So Midas thought he was going to make Aurelia happy. And then Aurelia was like, I don't like these heavy metal flowers. They're not pretty anymore. So the thing that he says is so obviously Midas, because he's very greedy. He just says, oh, we'll just buy you the roses that you want. What was wrong with the beautiful roses that were growing in their garden? You know, Midas messed with something that was already perfect the way that it was. He's about to really mess up too. Midas lifted a spoonful of porridge to his mouth, but as soon as the porridge touched his lips, it turned into a hard golden lump. So Midas is realizing that this is not a gift. This is more like a curse. So he's trying to eat his breakfast, and every time the food touches his mouth, it turns to gold. Can you eat gold? No. Perhaps if I eat quickly, he thought, puzzled, and snatched a fig from a bowl of fruit. It turned to solid gold before he could take a bite. He reached out for some bread, but his fingertips had no sooner brushed against the loaf than it too turned to gold. He tried cheese and even a spoonful of jam, but all to no avail. How am I to eat? He grumbled. What's wrong, Father? Asked Aurelia. Nothing, he answered, wishing not to worry her. Nothing at all, my child. But Midas began to wring his hands. If he was hungry now, he imagined how much more hungry he would be by dinner. And then he began to wonder, will I ever eat again? Aurelia, who had been anxiously watching her father all this time, slipped out of her chair and went to comfort him. Please don't cry, she said. Midas smiled and took her hand in his. But suddenly he recoiled in horror. His daughter stood before him, an expression of concern frozen on her face, a teardrop clinging to her golden cheek. His cursed touch had turned Aurelia into a lifeless statue. You can already see it kind of happening here. Midas howled in anguish and tore at his hair. He couldn't bear to look at the statue, but neither could he bear to leave her side. All right, here's the terrifying picture of him hugging his golden statue daughter. I think he just really learned something the hard way. Well, King Midas, are you not the happiest of men? Midas wiped his eyes and saw the mysterious stranger standing before him once again. So the angel's back. Oh no, I am the most miserable of men, he cried. What? Did I not grant your wish for the golden touch? Yes, but it is a curse to me now, Midas wept. All that I truly loved is now lost to me. Do you mean to say, asked the young man, that you would prefer a crust of bread or a cup of water to the gift of the golden touch? Oh yes, Midas exclaimed. I would give up all the gold in the world if only my daughter were restored to me. Then make your way to the river that flows past the borders of your kingdom. Follow the river upstream until you reach its source. As you cleanse yourself in the foaming spring, the golden touch will be washed away. Take with you a vase so that you may sprinkle water over any object you wish to change back to its original form. With those words, the young man vanished. So now he's got to go on a quest to find a special water from a special spring. And that will change things back. So this is also another beautiful illustration of him going to the spring. So the spring is just like where the water comes up at the beginning of a river, okay, is where what you call a spring, because the water comes up out of the rock. It springs out. As soon as Midas reached the spring, he plunged in without removing even his shoes. As the water washed the gold from his clothes, he noticed a pretty little violet growing wild along the banks and gently brushed his finger against it. When he saw that the delicate purple flower continued to bend with the breeze, He was overjoyed. So after he jumped in, he double checked to make sure that it really worked and he didn't have the curse anymore. So he touched the flower. So he's good now. Midas made his way back to the palace, where the first thing he did was sprinkle the water over his beloved Aurelia. No sooner did the water touch her cheek than she was restored, laughing at her father's game and remembering not a moment of being a golden statue. Together the two went out to the rose garden. Midas sprinkled each frozen rose with a little river water, and Aurelia clapped her hands when she saw them cured of their golden blight. So that's when he turns her back. Joyfully then, Midas restored all else he had transformed, except for a single rose kept forever as a reminder of the golden touch. So he changed everything back except one rose to remind him that all is not greater in gold, and sometimes money doesn't matter. Okay, that's it. Have a great day.